everybody. I don't know if I've won everyone, but anyway, we had a battle of times, and most of the time we did around a lot of hands together. You know, I listened to Kerry's speech, and it really meant so much to me to hear from an Aboriginal elder to speak the truth and what it means. And wonderful speech, Kerry, and everyone appreciated it. Sarah, you have no idea how proud I am of you. And baptism of fire. Did I tell you to wait and expect maybe to be called racist? Because that comes with being one nation, member of Parliament, and that was my baptism to be Parliament myself many years ago, and being that lone voice. My message hasn't changed. I'm not a new kid on the block. I've been saying right from day one, equality for all Australians. I remember after I was elected on the first day, and you're right, Corey, I was running my small business. I just thought, hey, I don't like the way the country's going. I thought, I'm going to get in there and have a say and try and do something. And when I finally joined up to the Liberal Party, I didn't stand as a candidate. I have nothing to do with politics apart from being a member of Parliament. And I remember going to the first meeting, and someone asked the question, not me, but they said, I remember it was John Warshaw, Minister, he said, sit down, shut up, you know nothing, we know everything. I went, oh, I'm making myself in too. So I happened to actually stand my ground on something. They threatened me, they told me I had to apologise. I refused to apologise. I actually expanded on it a bit more and made it worse for them. Of course, John Howard was terrified, so I had to go. Well, it was the people of Australia that got behind me, and it was just myself and my campaign manager. We had 42 booths. Do you know what the public got behind me? We actually manned all those booths. I went on to win that seat in 1996 with the biggest win in the nation. And that was the safest Labor seat, the only one that would help the overthrow of Whitlam. And it used to be Bill Hayden's seat for 27 years. So it was like, yeah, John Howard. And I've got to tell you this. When we'd been sworn in, I was walking out of the chamber with Graham Campbell, and I could hear behind me, excuse me, finally after 3 or 4 times I looked around, it was John Howard, and he said, oh, I just want to congratulate you on your win. And I said, oh, okay, thanks. And then I turned around and went talking to Graham Campbell. So anyway, I'd seen that period of time over the years, although he didn't need my numbers, but I caused him so much heartache because a lot of people were actually then turned into one nation, and because he was losing a lot of support from the Liberal National Party, he then took up a lot of the policies I was expressing: turn back the votes, deportation of criminals after 12 months here if they were Australian citizens, many abolishing ADSIC. That was another one of mine in my main speech. So it has been a lot that I've been able to achieve, but it's only because of you, the people. I was your voice on the floor of Parliament, and without, fear of failure, standing up for what I believe in, expressing my opinion, regardless of everything that you get thrown at you, because I take my job seriously. This is my country. I love it and I'm passionate about it, and I actually, feel for the people, my fellow Australians. Regardless of whether you're supposed to have been here for, the connection for the last 65,000 or even 100,000, or whether you actually born here of my age or the century, or whether you are a migrant that have come here from another country to live here. And we all have a right to this country and everything it has to offer. And that's what I stand for. No matter who you are, what's your background, race, colour, creed, my job is to represent all Australians fair and with a balanced view. And what is the best outcome? I can't please everyone. No one in my world. We've all got different opinions. But what is fair and just? And I don't see that happen on the floor of Parliament. It frustrates me to no end. And at this point in time, with the voice, I can tell you, it is going to be the most important thing in your life you will ever have to make a decision on. It is bigger than buying a house, your dream home. It is bigger than getting married. You can get out of both of those. we will never get out of it. Because once that is done, I'll tell you what will happen. It's just a matter of words, and they said, oh, we just want an advisory body to the Parliament to give us some advice on legislation. But it's also, they can prioritise matters of concern or importance to them to put to the government. So what came up the other day was about Australia Day. And then Bernie is saying, oh no, that's not good. I'm telling you this, we have it every year on Australia Day, the protest rallies. That is going to be top of the list, I can assure you, and we change with it. The voice, if it's not, and constitution lawyers have said, if you actually have, you don't listen to them, and that's even my private legislation when I put up, I have to actually consult with them. All legislation that concerns the Aboriginal and Torres Strait people, the Indigenous people of this nation, they have a right to actually have a say in it. Do you know that 80% of Indigenous live in cities and urban areas? Do you know that only 20% live in rural and remote areas? So you see, all legislation affects all Indigenous people. So this is a big concern. So once it's in the Constitution, there's no wording to it. Section 51 of the Constitution states that you'll have a whole list of it. Probably there's quite a lot of it. I mean, in the 51, Section 51, I'll explain to you.
51(26).
Yeah, 51, Section 51 of the Constitution explains different things like the government makes laws on coinage, on lighthouses, on postals, communications, and it's just one word, marriage, okay? So then the government of the day can go and make whatever legislation they want to. So when you put it in Chapter 129, the new chapter, with the few words they have, you're giving permission to the government to go make whatever legislation they want to. And part of that legislation, what they could do, is actually form another state in Australia. So they could carve off the Northern Territory, as long as they don't take any other state in part of that. So if they don't carve off anything from Western Australia, South Australia, or Queensland, then it doesn't have to go to a vote by the people. Also, under this new law, not adhered by the Constitution, they can actually increase the numbers of Parliament, which they have an inquiry going on at the moment. And a couple of years ago, Don Farrell, he actually said to me, do you agree with increasing the number of senators to 14? I said, no, I don't. I said, we've got too many senators now, I'd rather cut it back. So that's what they're doing. And I can assure you, it will be setting aside an extra 2 senators in every state who will be for Indigenous people only. Or if they take over the Northern Territory, at the moment they've got 2 senators, if they take it over and make it a state under the Constitution, they have to have 12 senators. So I want you to think about these things. How many of you know that 50% of Australia is under native title and another 10% pending, which they believe will be passed? The coalition government moved, they have the land councils, now it's the land and sea councils, giving them rights over waters above and below the ground and in Commonwealth waters. So they can also be challenged. So it's very dangerous what we propose and what they want us to do. And there's no real definition to it. We're not being told what it is. Oh, trust us. Okay? We know what's best for you, just trust us. I wouldn't trust them as far as I can throw them, and I know because I've worked with them. And don't you be fooled by it. Please do not feel emotional over this whole fact, because as I said, and I said it in my speech on Monday, I said, I've heard right from the beginning, it's 40,000 years they've been here, it's 50,000 years, and it's 60,000, and it's 65,000, and I said, even some people saying 100,000 years. You know what? I don't care. I really don't care. Because at the end of the day, where do I come into it? Where do you come into it? What's your connection? And, to think that it's only an Aboriginal that has a connection with this land. I have a deep connection. I have such a connection that I would actually go and fight for this country. If I could go and take the arms of anyone to invade this country and take away our democratic right and freedoms and way of life, I would fight to the death for it. That's my connection to Australia.
Yep.
But it's also, what about the farmers? Don't they have a connection to the land? What about the men and women who did sacrifice their lives in the wars to protect us and give us what we have today? What about the migrants that have come here and they love this country and their blood, sweat and tears have gone into it as well? What right does an Aboriginal or a Torres Strait Islander or a person who calls himself Indigenous have more right to this land than I do? Because of some connection going back 7 years ago, it's about the here and now. And as Kerry said, you can't change what's happened in the past. But what I hear all the time from this idiot who sits beside me in the Parliament saying, what a nasty piece of work she is. And all I see is this hatred, this division, this divisiveness, instead of trying to pull people together. This is not what Australia should be about. And they said, they haven't been recognised. We have now the Aboriginal and Torres Strait flag flying in Parliament. We never had that. We haven't been asked as a country. Do we accept that? We actually have welcome the country every morning. It used to be the prayers and welcome the country. No, they reversed that. And I'm sorry, when I'm in the Parliament, that happens, I turn my back on it. Yes. Because Kerry's right. This wasn't their culture. This was Ernie Dingo. This has been, all been brought on about. We've got to feel sorry. And Kerry's right. It's about the stolen generation. And now, if they're not going to take the kids away from these dysfunctional homes because of child sexual abuse, or they're not being looked after. The kids are in homes where there's domestic violence and everything that's happening because you're accused of the stolen generation. And I said in Parliament also, what about the stolen generation of the convicts that were forced to come out here? From England. People have faced atrocities over the years, but this guilt trip has to stop if we are going to be strong and united. We also have to take note of the fact of what has happened in New Zealand, and I'm hearing from people all the time. The division that's happened there since they've allocated seats to the Maoris. It doesn't work, and we've heard this week that they're prioritising your health issues based on your race. And that's not right. Sarah was right about the people living in poverty. There's no monopoly on, health issues or, people that are homeless, people living in their cars with their children or caravans or couch surfing. This is a problem faced by all Australians at the moment. And here in your own state, your Attorney General, he claims to be Aboriginal. And you know what your Premier said? Oh, I'll accept a statutory declaration from him. That's okay. Did you know that? Yeah. No. So he said he's accepted it. A stat dec, he can be Aboriginal. And the definition of Aboriginal is to actually be of Aboriginal connection to the land. And then you actually can be accepted by the elders and communities. And the third one is you can self-identify as an Aboriginal. And Kerry is right. When we brought in the referendum in 1967, it was put to the Australian people, that was really to change section 5126 of the Australian Constitution. Because at that time it said that the government can make specific laws for any race other than the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. That wasn't the founding fathers of our Constitution being racist against Aboriginals. That was put there so they can make specific laws for Chinese and the Afghans and those ones that came here, migrated here to work the goldfields and to deal with the drugs that were brought into the country at that time. That's what that is there for. So the people voted to get rid of it. Now it states that the government can make specific laws for any race. So they actually have that, and they do realise that in legislation they make. So it is there for people to actually, for the government to make specific laws if they want to, but they want to enshrine it in the Constitution, because once they do that, they implement seats in Parliament. Then they control the numbers in the Parliament with the Labor, the Greens and the Indigenous, and then you have the moderates from the Liberal Party, the wet blankets, the bedwetters, those as well. They're all starting to change. They need to be gone, and they're the ones that's why you will never get a change back again. So your voice will be gone. So think very seriously about it and talk to people about the truth of what this is going to mean. How am I going? No, finished? Finished?
The puzzle went about a year ago.
Oh, okay. Look, at the moment, what I'm trying to get is accountability. I put a private member's bill for identifying Aboriginality. They didn't vote on that. They denied me the right to introduce my bill on the floor of Parliament, so that stopped me. I want a Senate inquiry into it. No, that stopped me as well as that. So they don't want accountability. I'm now investigating with whistleblowers that came to see me about misappropriation of monies. These organisations, we've got over 3,200 separate Aboriginal corporations and land councils in the country. We spend about $33 billion a year on these Aboriginal issues. The census at that time, first one in 1971, was just about 116,000. It's now at 812,000, and between 2016 to 2021, it grew 25.2%. So it's, they're not, the mortality rate is not shown in the census when the rest of the population only grew by 8% with migrants as well. So a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon claiming Aboriginality, which is not the case. So it's not about money, it's about the people with lining their own pockets, misappropriation of monies, and it's not getting to the Aboriginals. I've been to these communities, I see what's happening, but every time I speak about it, I get held down. But I will keep fighting this fight. I want accountability for the taxpayers' dollars. We have a right to know where it's going. I want to stop the corruption, and people have a right to know. But to each and every one of you tonight, thank you for coming. I hope, I'm not a career politician, but I would say I speak from the heart and I'm passionate about what I do. I thank you for those people that have voted to put this woman into Parliament down here on the ground of one nation. We hope to increase those numbers over the years, because at the end of the day, you will gain from it with true, dedicated passion and honesty from 9 years of Parliament. And that's why I encourage them to be upfront, honest, and what you see is what you get. Thank you very much for coming.